Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody out there having a great start to their Tuesday. It was some anxious moments there, waiting to hear if 10 wins is an SEC school you're still in. Anyway, we have confirmation that will be going away at some point soon.
Yeah,
I said it in July, and I stand by it that most years, 10 wins, SEC, you're in. Sadly, not this year. Anyway, lots to get into today. Going to talk about the Heisman finalists being announced, including Diego Pavia. We'll talk some Titans. We'll talk some more college football headlines. Of course, Phillip Rivers maybe coming back to the NFL. But Nick Frazier, we have to start with just what was that from Jalen Hurts yesterday?
An absolute he had his moments where thinking, yeah, this is going to be a good drive. And then craps the bed. Like obviously in overtime, that fluky throw to the corner and gets tipped and intercepted, ends the ball game. But a horrible performance. I think that's the best way to put it. A horrible performance for Jalen Hurts.
Well, he very easily could have had another pick early in that game. It just barely hit the turf. The safety, I'm blanking on his name, dove, and it went kind of right through his elbows and hit the ground. So that could have been another one. And I don't think I've ever seen a play like the interception that he threw mid-second quarter or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Hit a defensive tackle in the chest. And, you know, those big guys, they're not used to carrying the football. So I understand the idea there of, hey, go try and punch it out. And the Eagles got it out right to Jalen Hurts. He picks it back up, and then he fumbles again. And as someone who needed Jalen Hurts to have a pretty big game for a fantasy league with my fiance's family, very disappointing to see Jalen Hurts lose 4 points on that play.
Hey, like I told you before the show, somebody's going to have a bad Christmas gift this year, okay? I can't name names, but hopefully they're nice enough during the holiday season.
Yes. So Jalen Hurts, I mean, it's strange because, right, the two best games I think I've ever seen Jalen Hurts play are the Super Bowls he's played in. Like, he has stepped up in the Super Bowls. Even the one he lost, he might have been the best player on the field that day. I think he ran for 2 touchdowns, maybe threw for 2 or 3 more, and they lost that game. And then he came out and just dominated in the Super Bowl last year in that blowout over the Chiefs. So in the biggest stage, he has stepped up. But, man, yesterday is kind of the culmination of what's just been a really tough season. Inaccurate downfield, turning the ball over too much. And for the Eagles, you can't really move on from him, right? Like, you've extended him. He's won you a Super Bowl, but you're looking at it and saying, I don't know if that guy can win for this team moving forward.
He's a mixture of a game manager slash it's like a Taysom Hill and Russell Wilson put together. If that makes sense.
I can see what you're saying there.
It's kind of hard to depict what Jalen Hurts really is. Like, when I watched him play last night, it reminded me of flashes when he went from Alabama to Oklahoma. It just, he had his quirks of had the moments. And I've also heard online and read some stuff that Jalen Hurts has a little bit of Aaron Rodgers in him. And I'm not talking about play on the field. I'm talking about mentally checking plays at the line. Like, if their game plan is to throw the ball 45-50% of the time, more than likely he's going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to run the ball. Like, that was the whole words from Antonio Brown, AJ Brown,
right,
a few weeks ago. Like, why the lack of play? And he goes, well, Saquon, you can say the same thing about him. Like, I was just taking a jab at Saquon and also Hurts, because Hurts is the air quotes game manager for the Eagles.
Yeah, I like the comparison there because they have put the perfect situation around him, right? Like, that offensive line, Lane Johnson not healthy right now, but when that offensive line is healthy, they're one of the best units in the league. Jordan Mailata is great at left tackle. They've historically had good interior offensive linemen. You've also got Dallas Goedert at tight end, and then you've got great wide receivers with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Oh, and last year you had the best running back in the league. And guess what? They won the Super Bowl. They went out, and Jalen Hurts did enough throughout that season and made plays when they needed him to in the playoffs. But if you put Jalen Hurts on the Tennessee Titans today, does this team have more than 2 wins?
No.
Like, does Jalen Hurts elevate the Titans? I don't think so. And I don't think he elevates the Eagles, and that's a big reason why they're kind of middle of the pack this year.
You can make the argument that the Titans would be worse with Jalen Hurts. Like, the record might be worse. Like, even though the Titans have 2 wins, you put Jalen Hurts out there against Cleveland, they're not winning that ball game.
I don't know. Jalen Hurts at least has the experience, and he at least has the threat of being able to run the ball. Like, I don't know if the Titans are worse with Jalen Hurts, but are they significantly better? No. And I think that's where you look at the top tier of quarterbacks in the NFL. And I know after he won the Super Bowl, there were a lot of people trying to say Jalen Hurts deserves to be in that conversation with Mahomes and Allen and Burrow and Jackson. Mm-hmm. And he just doesn't. Like, when you put him in an elite situation, he can be good enough to get you to a Super Bowl. And guess what? You can't say that about a lot of quarterbacks in the league. He is still a guy that the Eagles are going to build around, even though he hasn't been very good this year. But he is not that type of player like those four guys I mentioned who, no matter what you put around him, they're going to produce and they're going to help you win football games.
Yeah, and I want to go back a little bit to that Titans comparison. If Hurts was on this team currently, Titans team that is, you look at some of those collapsing pockets with Cam Ward back there. To me, if it's Jalen Hurts, he's going to just fall under pressure because that's a guy that, yeah, he can evade the pocket, but you got to remember what he's evading the pocket with in Philadelphia is a better offensive line. And I'm not trying to discredit like a guy like Peter Skoronski or whatever, but we've all seen this team this past year, and it's just been horrendous to watch. And that pocket has collapsed within like 4 or 5 seconds. I mean, it's just bad.
Yeah, and I know there might be some people out there who, I say Patrick Mahomes, he's in that elite group and elevates people. Obviously, he's done it in the past. But yeah, they're 6-7 right now. Guess what? If you flip Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, I think the Chiefs might be like 3-10. I think if you put Patrick Mahomes on the Eagles, they're probably the best team in football.
100%. And we all know this. Mahomes elevates players around him, whereas if you're Jalen Hurts, other players around him elevate his game.
Yes.
It's just the opposites.
Really strange game last night. Chargers win it in overtime. The Eagles continue to have a turnover problem, a Jalen Hurts problem, and they end up falling. Are they now 7-6?
8-5.
8-5.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're still going to be a playoff team, but I don't know if I see them going very far, considering the way they've been playing. Starting with the Tennessee Titans here. We'll start with some Titans, then we'll get into the Heisman candidates that were announced or last night. Cam Ward, after the game on Sunday, you could tell that he wasn't exactly thrilled with his performance, despite the win. And there's been a lot made of it about Cam Ward being a little bit, somber in the post-game press conference and saying, we'll hear the audio coming back in the next segment. And the question has been asked, is it selfish? Is that somebody who cares more about their own personal achievements than the team? Or is that somebody who can look at that win and say, yeah, we won, but we didn't play our best football, and wanting to hold the team to higher standards? I can see it both ways, but I think that's the question that's being asked out there is Cam Ward more worried about his own personal achievements than the team? Or was that a quarterback who realizes that performance isn't going to win them games continuously and sustainably, and was trying to hold his team to a higher standard?
I just looked at that game as Cam Ward tried to elevate his game around a Shedeur Sanders type game, if that makes sense. Because everybody saw how Cam Ward played. It wasn't the best. It wasn't like highlight moment, watch material football. Whereas you look at Shedeur Sanders, and you got to remember what rank of defenses you're going up against. I think that's the big issue for me, is that like people try to compare Shedeur to Cam. Obviously, they're friends, but if it's Cam Ward kind of trying to compare himself or just trying to elevate himself, I think that's why he just, I think, was outmassed by the statistics of the game, and that's simply it.
Did you see the Shedeur and Cam jersey swap after the game?
Yeah, I think what Cam said, you threw like 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's gonna be sold on eBay or something like that.
Yeah, and Shedeur was like, "I've got to make it through the season. Like, I'm like, Shedeur, you're still making like very good money for the average person. Yeah. And guess what? Your dad is primetime Deion Sanders. I think you'll be okay.
And you have a Nike deal. You're good.
I think Shedeur Sanders can live and doesn't have to sell Cam Ward's jersey on eBay."
That's terrible.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to chime in, you can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Quickly, Matthew in Nashville asks, How do you feel about Franklin bringing over all these Penn State guys he coached with, Jake, especially the rehiring of Pry after he got fired 3 months ago? Nick and I were just talking about this.
That's hilarious,
with
by the
Brent
way.
Pry
I didn't know that
coming
was
back.
possible.
I had heard that he was going to come back on as an analyst. He didn't want to move his kids out of Blacksburg. He was getting paid the buyout money. He was going to stick around and just help out. And then it came down that he was going to be the defensive coordinator. And I think that is just hilarious. You fire the guy 3 months ago. And I mean, it helps with the transition, right? You can probably retain some of the good players who were on the last team. Maybe some of the recruits that he brought in are more willing to stay. So I get it. And Brent Pry was an established defensive coordinator at Penn State for a long time under James Franklin. But it is hilarious that you sometimes will see the rare, like Jeff Lebby is going back to be Mississippi State's defensive coordinator, which
Zach Arnett.
Oh, sorry, Zach Arnett under Jeff Lebby. Sorry,
yes. No,
Zach Arnett is going to be the defensive coordinator. Same situation, but there's some time removed there.
Yeah.
To do it the next season after you got fired is pretty hilarious.
It is pretty funny. I mean, look, and no discredit to Virginia Tech in this situation, but the expectation for them is if they go 9-10 wins, that's good. Like you're not, I mean, obviously you want to go national championship level. We get all that. But for Brent Pry to kind of recover his career that way, I think everybody's happy.
No,
every situation.
It's what I tell every Virginia Tech fan is that Frank Beamer was James Franklin. He 9 or 10 wins, couldn't win the big game, and they built him a statue outside of Lane Stadium. James Franklin, if he just does what he did at Penn State, he is going to be a legend in Blacksburg.
There you go.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll continue to talk about Cam Ward on the other side. Later in the hour, Diego Pavia is headed to New York City. He will be a Heisman finalist. Can he take home the trophy on Saturday? And much more throughout the show. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday morning. Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. That was Cam Ward after the game on Sunday. Little snippet of his feelings after the 31-29 win over the Browns. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. And we were having the conversation in the last segment about, is Cam Ward just holding his team to a high standard, or is he more worried about his stat line and his battle with Shedeur Sanders than the team actually winning? And I'm not trying to take a stance on this one way or another, because I think there's probably a little bit of both. I think he was disappointed in, that's his friend. They trained together, and Shedeur Sanders pretty obviously outplayed him on Sunday in Cleveland. But I think it also is a little bit of, exactly what he said there. Winning hides a lot of things. The Titans almost blew that game in that fourth quarter. And you do have to hold the team to a higher standard. When you're 1-11 and you win a game, that doesn't mean everything is magically fixed. So I think it's a little bit of both from Cam Ward. I think there was disappointment in his own personal performance, especially with all of the eyes on it. But I think it also is Cam Ward trying to be a leader and saying, hey, just because we won that game doesn't mean we are a better team yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Cam Ward, maybe he just has a high standard for himself, being a 0-star recruit out of high school and going to multiple places in college. But you come to the NFL, I think all that's out the window. Sure, you can still carry that as a chip on your shoulder. But again, you're right. You go to the game and you think about the Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward comparisons. And I'll reiterate, like I said last segment, like Shedeur Sanders went up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Whereas you look at the Titans, went up against the number 2 defense right now in the NFL, something like that. So again, what the Titans did against Myles Garrett, kudos to them. They suppressed him in pass block, rushing, offense.
They had a great game plan for Myles Garrett, which I was pretty surprised by.
Yeah, and it wasn't even on Latham's side for the majority of the time. It was on Dan Moore Jr.'s side, which I was surprised in. And Ali Udoh, I think it was on the 65-yard run. Ali Udoh was in for that, and I thought it was Latham. It wasn't. I think Titans did get away with a little bit of a hold. There's a little bit of hook in there, but besides the point.
There's holding on every play in the NFL.
Exactly. But again, to the point of Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, what the Titans offensive line did against Myles Garrett, kudos. And you think for Cam Ward's sake, that's a plus. Sure, there have been some negatives in that game, but you got to find the small things to build off of. And I think that's where his mindset is. Whereas maybe for other people, you're thinking, well, it was a terrible game. Like you said, wins can hide a lot of bad things, but I think there were more positives than negatives. I really do.
Yeah, overall for the Titans, 100%. Seeing Tony Pollard have a resurgence like that, the offensive line actually looking competent. I mean, 1 sack allowed against that defensive line and Myles Garrett, and it came on a stunt. Like, it wasn't like Myles Garrett just straight up one-on-one beat somebody. They had to wrap him around to get to Cam Ward.
Yeah, he was lined up in the C gap and then wrapped around into the A gap. I'm just like, whoa.
So it was a really well thought out and well executed game plan against Myles Garrett. We talked yesterday about the rep from Alec Iamaner on the chip, just knocking Myles Garrett on his ass. That was impressive stuff and really well done by the Titans. I think overall, you can look at that game as a big step forward for the Titans. But for Cam Ward, it wasn't. Yes, as there has been all year, there's moments. Both touchdown passes I thought were really good. I mean, the first one, good pocket movement, found some space, made an accurate throw on the run to Alec Iamaner, wide open for a touchdown. Chimdike, that's an opposite hash dart that he throws on an out route to Chimdike. Well done. The throw to Van Jefferson on 3rd and long, where it hit him in the hands and he dropped it. Great throw. But we're talking about moments instead of games. And that's where I think the development needs to come for Cam Ward. We need to come out of one of these final 4 games saying Cam Ward looked good all day long. The ball placement was good. He got the ball out quickly, and he made the right decisions. So far, I would guess the Seahawks game might be the only one where we've come out of it and thought he played a pretty complete game. Otherwise, it's been
Denver week 1. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah, but Denver, it was his first game, and I wouldn't have said that was a complete game. I think he played a lot better than the stats showed in that game.
That's fair. I think if Ridley makes a lot more of those catches that were thrown.
Right, maybe we're talking differently about it.
Exactly. That's kind of how I look at it.
But there hasn't been enough games where we come out of it and, I flip the TV over to Red Zone at 3:00 and say, man, Cam Ward played a great game. There's been a lot of games where I'm like, yeah, Cam Ward had some really good moments in that game. or Cam Ward played great in the second half of that game. We need to see Cam Ward have a game where he goes out, he executes the game plan, he makes accurate throws, and it doesn't have to match up statistically. Like, there is some of the stuff that is out of his control. Like we talk about the Broncos game. He hit Calvin Ridley in the hands 3 or 4 times and he dropped it. But you'd like to come out of a game and be like, Cam Ward completed 70% of his passes for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns and didn't turn the ball over. Just have one of those games. It would build confidence for him, and I think would build confidence for the organization that, hey, this is moving in the right direction for Cam Ward. Let's build around him and go find a coach who can maximize his abilities.
Yeah, and if you look at that Cleveland game for Cam, there were some, I guess you could say, tight window throws. Like there was that the interception over the middle by the linebacker for Cleveland.
Yeah, Devin Bush
tried to flick it over him a little bit. It was more on a tight line, and it just didn't work well.
That one was just, I give Jim Schwartz credit for that. That is just making a rookie quarterback make a mistake. They went all out blitz, but dropped one of the linebackers right into the passing lane, and that's a mistake that rookie quarterbacks are going to make. I give Jim Schwartz a lot of credit for basically just knowing exactly what's going through a rookie quarterback's head and making him make that mistake. That's one of the first interceptions he's thrown this year where he clearly just didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of his interceptions have been inaccurate throws or miscommunications or something like that. But I'm hoping in the next 4 weeks, you're looking at the defenses that you're playing. Like the 49ers have talent on their defense, but no Fred Warner, no Nick Bosa. Maybe he takes a step forward this week. The Chiefs, their defense has been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got the Saints, the Jaguars. We saw how that went. I mean, it was maybe one of his worst games of the year. But one of these games, I just want to come out of it and see Cam Ward played a complete game, not just a quarter, not just a half, not just a moment and a throw here and there, a complete game where we can come out of it and say, that is what it's supposed to look like from Cam Ward.
Yeah, and you look at that Saints game coming up in a few weeks, like that's the game for me. You're going to see that complete game, air quotes, for Cam Ward. Like right now, you could probably see some, again, you talk about moments. You could see the moments in possibly a Kansas City game or the Jacksonville game of some regards. But for me, if you want to see a full, complete game out of Cam Ward, you hope it's against the Saints because that's a team that, again, is the top 5 spot right now for one of the worst teams. So as for Cam, I think he can build off of the Cleveland game. I would, again, there are a lot more positives and negatives in my eyes. If this offensive line can stay competent for Cam Ward in one of these games so he can have an actual complete game to go off of, I think that's what your biggest worry is.
Well, and I think the offensive line, that has to be a confidence builder for those guys, right? Like we talked about J.C. Latham losing confidence in himself, and I'm not sure he had an amazing game against Cleveland, but to go in there when everybody's telling you that you're going to give up 4+ sacks to Myles Garrett and to only give up 1, that's got to at least get the good feelings going back in that offensive line room a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's adversity in J.C. Latham's mind right now because, look, I've heard on previous shows and just in weeks past that J.C. Latham hasn't had much adversity through his career.
Man, TD brings it up all the time. Like, you play at IMG Academy in Alabama.
Yeah.
You don't lose very often.
No. And obviously you go from left tackle to right tackle in the NFL. It's a complete different, I guess you'd say, position in some aspects, still has some of the same intangibles. But again, you're learning something new. I mean, because right tackle in high school is different from right tackle in the NFL. You know, that's as simple as that. So, I mean, if Latham can kind of get that, like you're talking about confidence again, and just be himself, go back to the Latham of old where you're running sprints in the thunderstorms. Like, let's do that. Because right now it's just slowly getting there. That's how I'm going to put it. Just slowly getting there.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Quickly, Lenny on the text line. Cam is asked, dude, it's obvious Cam is not that player. I have never seen an NFL fan base hate their own rookie quarterback more than this. And hate maybe is a strong word,
Dislike.
but root against their own quarterback like this. Like, have a little bit of belief that he can turn it around. The Titans were not the only team that wanted to draft Cam Ward number 1 overall, right? Like, it hasn't looked the way we hoped it would in year 1. But to say it's obvious that Cam is not that player, as in a franchise quarterback, it's way too early to say that. I told you during the break, if Cam Ward comes out next year and through a month and a half, 6 weeks, still looks like the same guy and isn't developing, I will gladly admit that I was wrong about Cam Ward. But to make that determination when his play caller changed 3 weeks in, his head coach changed 6 weeks in, he has almost no help around him, and he's played 13 games in his NFL career, it's ludicrous to say that he is obviously not that player. We don't know what Cam Ward's going to be. Yes, he's disappointed this year, but we have no idea. You cannot make any any grand declarations about what Cam Ward is going to be at this point in his career.
Yeah, and look, I'm not trying to compare him to Marcus Mariota at all, but you look at that situation he was in with the Titans. He had what, 4 different offensive coordinators in 4 different seasons?
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying it's the same thing to apples, but it has some of the same qualities in some aspects. The fact that there's something new every year for Cam, it's almost like there's something new every other week.
Right.
So you got to give it some time.
Lenny says being drafted first does not make you great. No, but saying that multiple teams wanted to come up and take Cam Ward number 1 overall means that the NFL as a whole viewed him as worthy of that top pick.
Yeah.
It's not like the Titans picked a 3rd round worthy player at number 1 and the whole league laughed at them. Other teams wanted Cam Ward. We'll see what he turns into when he gets a better coach and better pieces around him.
And I'll say this about Cam Ward and the draft process and whatnot. And this is at the NFL as a whole right now. Look at the quarterback position. There is a need for decent quarterbacks. And look, Cam Ward, I think, was the better of the litter in this previous draft. You look at this upcoming year's draft, there might be 1 or 2 possibly good quarterbacks. And the point I'm trying to make is there is a lack of quarterback production in this league. You look at the Steelers going for Aaron Rodgers at 42 years old. We'll get into it eventually. The Indianapolis Colts have no quarterback right now.
Right.
And they're talking about 44-year-old Phillip Rivers,
who hasn't played in the league in 5 years.
Exactly. So look, there's a lack of quarterback production. And if you can focus on the young talent of rookie quarterbacks in this league, I think you'll be okay.
And I will never blame a GM or a front office if they are convicted on a quarterback and they have the number 1 overall pick. You take that quarterback. A franchise quarterback is worth whatever you could get in a trade. And maybe he doesn't turn into it, but if the GM was convicted on it, you take the quarterback, and if the quarterback fails, you get fired. That's how it works. 615-737-1025. Let's quickly go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Rick is on the line wanting to chime in. Rick, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
You bet, guys. Hey, listen, one thing, the Texer, or basically anybody, in my opinion, who is ready to write off Cam Ward is absolutely idiotic. Did anybody watch Patrick Mahomes last night, or basically Patrick the entire year? And Patrick Mahomes is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but his numbers don't show that this year. And why? It's not Patrick, it's the people around him. He's got receivers dropping passes. His offensive line isn't there. They have virtually no running game. And Patrick Mahomes, is throwing interception, ill-advised passes. And that's the best guy in the league. And here we've got a rookie with, all these changes you guys talked about and a very mediocre team around him. So for him showing any improvement is just amazing to me. And then also a strike 1 against you guys. I don't know if you're going to get this, we got a really complete game from Cam. Why? Because the guys around him are going to have a complete game too. And
that's fair.
That's you can't if he doesn't have a complete game, you can't say, well, hell, it's all because of him. He may make mistakes for sure, but we just can't expect too much. Now, there are some areas that will be pretty obvious that you'd like to see him do better on. But anyway, I have a lot of hope for the young man, and I think he's going to be a great quarterback for us. There you go.
Thanks for the call, Rick. Great stuff from Rick. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get back into the Titans later on, but big news yesterday. Heisman finalists were announced, and Diego Pavia is one of them, along with Fernando Mendoza, Jeremiah Love, and Julian Sayin. We will talk about those Heisman finalists and Diego Pavia's case on the other side. Also, did somebody get snubbed from a trip to New York? We'll get to that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5. The game starting on Thursday between noon and 3 p.m. Chase and Big Joe will have your chance to win a $100 Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa $100 gift card and qualify to win a $1,000 Genesis Diamonds gift card. It's the 12 Days of Christmas on 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Talk some Titans to start the show. We'll talk some more two-tone blue later on. But into the Heisman finalists, which were announced yesterday. Fernando Mendoza, Diego Pavia were the obvious ones. Also, Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Love going to be going to NYC. Looks like it's going to be a two-horse race. Is it Mendoza? Is it Pavia? After the Big Ten championship, the odds went way up for Fernando Mendoza. Heavy favorite. Sort of starting to come back to earth, making there an okay chance that Diego Pavia wins. And I think it's going to be Mendoza. I said this yesterday. I think it should be Pavia, but I think the national aspect of the award, like I think if you polled SEC voters, Pavia wins in a landslide. But the most national people covered that Big Ten championship game and watched that Big Ten championship game and saw Fernando Mendoza slay the giant in Ohio State with a couple of big throws down the stretch. And that is his quote-unquote Heisman moment. But if you look at the stats, I think Diego Pavia deserves to win it. And we'll see. I don't think we're going to know until that card is read on Saturday night.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, you look at the Big Ten championship game, and I think a lot of people are starting to get enamored about this one specific play, and it was that third down conversion on that far hash that Mendoza threw to Charlie Becker.
The fade to the Nashville kid.
Yeah. Follow Ryan alum right here. Proud to be an Irish. There we go. He was a Follow Ryan guy myself. So I think a lot of people are getting enamored with that one play because that, to me, I think was the Heisman moment for Mendoza. I mean, you look at Pavia, and you're right, Jake. The numbers speak for itself. I mean, he is almost 1,000 more yards total over Mendoza around that number?
It's 800-ish now, okay. But Mendoza played an extra game.
Right.
And Mendoza also, for those people out there, we got somebody saying yesterday that, Mendoza didn't finish half of his games. Neither did Pavia, and Mendoza played more snaps than Diego Pavia did. Yeah. Pavia, I think, threw the ball like 20 or 30 more times than Mendoza, but same yards per attempt, and Diego had 500 plus more yards on the ground.
Yeah, and let's not forget the one game that Pavia set the passing record. He even asked Clark Lee, can I just continue this game? I could set a bigger record. And I think, again, not holding it against Clark Lee or anybody else, that if he would have let him play a little bit more, I think that would have solidified the Heisman.
Yeah, I think Diego, you got to look at the November performances from Diego Pavia. Yeah. And it's a whole year award. It's not just how you finish, but down the stretch when Vanderbilt needed to win every game left on their schedule, they had to beat Auburn, and they fell behind early. They had to beat Kentucky and get style points, and they had to go into Knoxville and beat Tennessee. Diego Pavia played his best football. And people might say, he threw 2 interceptions early against Tennessee. Look at that second half.
Corrected his wrongs.
Right. He came back and lit up that Tennessee defense for the last 30 minutes of that game. Fernando Mendoza is a deserving winner if he wins it. I'm not going to say that Diego Pavia got it robbed from him because Fernando Mendoza put up great stats. He took Indiana to a 13-0 season and the number 1 seed in the college football playoff and won their first Big Ten championship in 80 years. Fernando Mendoza this year is a deserving winner of the Heisman. I just think Diego's more deserving with what he did. And it can't be the only argument, but we bring it up all the time of if you put Pavia and Mendoza on each other's teams, does Diego Pavia still go 13-0 with Indiana? I would think so.
Yeah. The way Cignetti has revolved that defense around the quarterback, absolutely.
Right. And does Vanderbilt go 10-2 with Fernando Mendoza on their team instead of Diego Pavia?
I think it's a little worse.
I don't think so. And it's a very hypothetical argument, so it can't be the only one you have, but it's not the only one you do have. Pavia's stats are better. They are. And Pavia, I think, just meant more to his team than Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza, a great player on a great team. Diego Pavia, a great player on a very good Vanderbilt team. But without Diego Pavia, do we think Vanderbilt is 10-2 and in the college football playoff conversation?
Absolutely not. They're a 7-5, 7-6 record,
right?
In my opinion.
I think it's going to be really close. Like Genty and Hunter was close last year, but I think you kind of knew heading into the ceremony it was going to be Travis Hunter.
Yeah, and again, this could be another Heisman. Like a great comparison, by the way, Genty and Hunter, because everybody thought Ashton Genty was the runaway favorite, but we all get two-way player is very rare in college nowadays, and having a guy like Travis Hunter who's electric like that, yeah, deservingly so. But as for a guy statistically, Genty should have won that thing hands down, and I think it's the same case for Diego Pavia, because look, if the voters treat this like the college football playoff committee, this could be very sour for Vandy fans.
Yeah,
really.
It would stink to be snubbed twice. Keegan on the text line says, as much as Pavia deserves it, I just can't see a world where the quarterback of the number one undefeated team doesn't win it. I even think Pavia is a better quarterback overall, especially in the locker room, just too much hype around undefeated Indiana. And I think he played most recently. Yep. He got the last statement to the voters, and it was a good one. And Indiana is the best team in the country. I think Fernando Mendoza is going to win, but I think Pavia should. I saw on Pardon My Take, Barstool podcast, PFT commenter said Fernando Mendoza and Diego Pavia are the angel and the devil on the Heisman voters' shoulders right now, which I think is the perfect way to put it. Like Fernando Mendoza is kind of this like quirky,
squeaky clean guy.
That squeaky clean guy. Like you look at that post-game interview and he's just like it's
we wanted him for the team. Did you not see it?
How about the flipping Hoosiers?
Yeah.
Like he replaced the F-bomb with flipping.
Right. That's on live TV. He said flipping. Diego Pavia did not say flipping last year when they beat Alabama.
Mendoza reminds me a lot of Phillip Rivers. He has that Phillip Rivers vocabulary. Never cursed.
Right. I think that is the perfect example of after the biggest wins of their career, they beat the number one team in the country. Mendoza said flipping. Diego did not say flipping. And I wonder if that factors in a little bit of Diego Pavia is the more brash, out in your face, did the Heisman post 7 times this season. Like, I think that might play a factor in it too. But I think it's just, it might just be pick your flavor for these voters. And sadly, I think with the way the end of the season unfolded, I think Mendoza is going to have a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, look, if that does come into factor about the way you present yourself, and again, there's been the conversations of his family and whatnot. Look, you can't control what your family does in the stadium. I'm sorry.
Right.
Sure, they may get in trouble with the law. Sure, you may be going to Knoxville before you go to New York. But besides that, you pay your dues and you go about your day. Okay, you can't help that.
I want to see the family's reaction in New York if he wins it or if he loses it.
He said in Texas they had like 80 Pavia family members. So imagine how many guests they'll have in New York.
Get ready, NYPD. You might have some drunken public arrest to make.
There you go.
615
$1 pizza.
737-1025 is the phone number. The 4 finalists announced: Mendoza, Pavia, Love, Sayin. There's one guy who I think a lot of people are saying was snubbed, and we'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Preds fans, Smashville Live returns tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on 102.5 The Game, live from Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue. Meet your Predators players up close and personal, and also get autographs and pictures. Preds player guest are Luke Evangelista and Nick Blankenberg. That's tomorrow night at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue and only on 102.5 The Game. Talking Heisman finalists, Diego Pavia, Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Love, all going to New York City. Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker for Texas Tech, is not. And I saw a lot of people out there thinking that he should have gotten the invite. And I tend to agree with them. It's going to be very difficult for a true defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. That's just the way the award has gone the last few years. Travis Hunter won it last year, but he was not a pure defensive player. He played both ways. Jacob Rodriguez, I think, was deserving of an invite. When you get the chance to invite a defensive player, I think you should. He won the Butkus Award, first Butkus Award winner in Texas Tech history. This year, he had 7 forced fumbles and 4 interceptions, responsible for 9 forced turnovers this year. And also has over 100 tackles and 10 tackles for loss. Again, probably doesn't deserve to win it, but I do enjoy, when Manti Te'o got the invite to New York, when Ndamukong Suh got the invite to New York. When you have a defensive player who is putting up a season like that, they may not win it, but I think it is nice to at least invite them and give them that experience, considering the Heisman has, for better or for worse, become a quarterback award in 9 out of 10 years.
Yeah, looking at Manti Te'o's stats, because that's kind of what brought to my brain, looking at his stats comparing to Jacob Rogers. Manti Te'o had a total of like 113 tackles. I mean, they're pretty similar stats. I mean, he has 114, Jacob Rogers does, 1 sack. Te'o had 1.5 sacks, 7 interceptions for Manti. I think that's kind of what got him over the hump. Jacob has 4. So, I mean, look, it's unfortunate for Jacob Rodriguez to get snubbed in the Heisman case because you have other good players like a Jeremiah Love, who's put together a really good season with Notre Dame. And then, obviously, quarterbacks kind of run all of football in a roundabout way. So that's kind of another unfortunate task for him. But, yeah, kudos to him for just putting together a great performing season. I mean, it's not over yet. They're in the playoff. So
right. They got to bye, too.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the quarterfinal matchups that I'm most excited for because – credit to James Madison for getting into the playoff. Don't think they're going into Autzen Stadium and beating Oregon. Texas Tech Oregon's going to be a great game.
Shootout.
Yeah. I mean, the defenses are both good, but I think the offenses are going to have a big day. I'm excited for that one. Also, we were just talking about Fernando Mendoza. Indiana versus either Alabama or Oklahoma is going to be an interesting one, too.
If Alabama can get past Oklahoma, I could see that Indiana game going either way. I really could.
I think that's going to be a pick 'em. Like, I don't know if Indiana may be favored a little bit. It's in the Rose Bowl. That's going to be, that side of the bracket is the more interesting one, I think. I think you're almost guaranteed on the other side, and this is nothing against Ole Miss or A&M or Miami. I think you're almost guaranteed to have a Georgia-Ohio State semifinal on the other side.
Yeah.
The 1, 4, 5, 8 side of the bracket, I think any of those 5 teams we just mentioned, or 4 teams, could get through. Oregon, Texas Tech, Indiana, Alabama, Oklahoma. So 5 teams.
5.
I think any of those 5 teams on that side of the bracket, JMU is the only one I don't think could make it to the national championship game.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that Georgia-Ohio State matchup. It will ultimately probably happen in the semifinals. Like, after watching the Big Ten championship game, obviously it was just a fluke of a kick that missed their opportunities to win it, or just tie it, that is. I got to give the edge to Georgia. They've just been –
they're playing great football right now.
They just play football when it matters. And that, I mean, you could say that they have a similar regular season in how they've kind of managed it with, like, in comparing it to Ohio State, because Ohio State, you could say, had a Disney-esque season where they just kind of coasted their way through to the playoff.
Right.
Georgia kind of had that. But once it got to the SEC, they played meaningful football, and they knew when to flip the switch. Whereas you look at the Big Ten matchups, I think Ohio State's only big win over a ranked team at the time was like, I mean, not
they
just,
beat Texas.
Yeah, Texas. But you look at Illinois, I think they were ranked 9th at the time. And obviously Michigan at the end of the season. But those ranked wins don't compare to the SEC. And I'm not trying to make the SEC Big Ten comparison, but it just maybe Ohio State's that good, or Indiana kind of exposed some flaws that they have.
Yeah, and with Georgia early in the season, they didn't look like your typical Kirby Smart Georgia team. Like you probably should have lost to Tennessee. You did lose to Alabama. The Auburn game was the game with the very controversial fumble at the goal line that could have put Auburn up 17-3, and you maybe lose that game. You beat Florida 24-20, a bad Florida team. Like early in the season, really the first 2/3 of the season, this team didn't look very good. But then you blow out Texas 35-10. You beat Georgia Tech. You blow out Alabama in the SEC championship game. This Georgia team's playing really good football. And I think that just like the Georgia-Ohio State semifinal game we got back in 2022 that leaked into 2023, I think that is going to be maybe the game of the playoffs.
Absolutely. And I just hate how the committee formulated the playoff bracket that way to where it would be a semifinal matchup.
Well, it kind of had to be, right?
Yeah. I mean, it did. I look back at I think the really thing what really made me mad was the Texas A&M and Ole Miss flip-flopping this 6 and 7 rankings. Because to me, it should have been the opposite.
Right. And it's a big difference of A&M has to play Miami.
Yeah.
Ole Miss plays Tulane.
And one of those teams has to end up playing at some point.
Well, right. They're going to move on. The winner of A&M Miami gets Ohio State. The winner of Ole Miss Tulane gets Georgia. So, yeah, I agree. I guess the one thing I would say is the only thing that you could have done to change Georgia and Ohio State would have been to drop Ohio State to 4 and move Texas Tech up. And then maybe you get Indiana, Ohio State rematch in the semifinals instead of the national championship.
I would have liked that. Honestly, I would have liked that a little bit better because then you have Ohio State, they get their vengeance. They get everything they need, the validation for Ohio State fans. But nobody really, to me, I like seeing really good football. I know you do too. Everyone else does. I don't want to see that in the semifinals. I don't want to see a Georgia Ohio State. I would like to see that be a potential national championship game.
I got to say, SEC fans, and I know we get called SEC homers here and there, we will never hear the end of it if it ends up a semifinal of Oregon, Indiana on one side and Ohio State, Georgia, and then Ohio State beats Georgia. So you get an all Big Ten national championship and they win it for the 3rd straight year. Yeah, we'll never hear the end of it. So if you're an SEC fan, you don't want Dr. Locke calling in and giving it to you. Go Georgia, because they might be the real. I think Georgia,
maybe A&M,
I don't know if I believe in A&M.
Yeah.
Honestly, I want to say Alabama, but they haven't looked very good lately. Maybe they snap out of it, but yeah, Georgia might be the only realistic threat for the SEC to go win a national championship. And 5774 makes a good point on the text line. Georgia's the 2nd youngest team in the SEC, playing almost 60% first and second year players.
Kirby said, "Look, you guys can't have the car keys yet, okay? You guys continue to play football." And that's what
maybe that should just be the standard across Georgia athletics.
Yeah. Play fast on the field, boys. That's what you got to do.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. When we come back, we wanted to get to this yesterday on the show, but just didn't have time with everything going on. But Notre Dame making the decision to opt out of a bowl game. Could this be the end of the bowl system as we know it? We'll talk about it on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, hour number 2 on this Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Second hour, going to talk a lot of college football. Titans talk, NFL talk coming up in hour number 3. Nick, I've been waiting to talk about this since Sunday. Notre Dame gets left out of the college football playoff, and you can have thoughts on whether they should have gotten in or not. I know the AD basically said that you need to get rid of the weekly rankings reveals because it just sets up that situation where Notre Dame's ahead of Miami week in, week out, and then on the day of the reveal, they flip them and put Miami in. I think it was the right decision, but I agree those weekly rankings reveals are stupid and basically are just made for TV products that lead to these issues where the committee has to basically reverse their course of thought that they've had publicly for the last 2 months. But Notre Dame makes the decision to not play in a bowl game because they were left out of the college football playoff. A couple other Power 4 teams have opted out too. I believe Iowa State opted out, and maybe one more.
Yeah, because there was about 3 or 4 teams that went 5-7.
Yeah, Mississippi State is in now. And then was it App State who decided to take the Birmingham Bowl against their rival, Georgia Southern, because no one else wanted to take it? They asked like 7 teams. And it makes me wonder, is this the beginning of the end for the bowl system as we know it? If a team like Notre Dame is opting out, has it become playoffs or bust, and teams aren't going to care nearly as much about going to play in, the Citrus Bowl or the Music City Bowl or all these bowls that are really important, I think, for fans, but are programs just not caring about it quite as much?
I think the being incentivized to play in bowl games, that number is going to increase, because you look at, I'm not sure how many markets that are having a bowl game don't have a pro team, but if you look at some of those markets that don't have a pro team, this is their Super Bowl. So if their team's opting out of those bowl games, it makes you wonder, the bowl selection committee is going to have to start picking and choosing specifically, like, if this team's going to play, we're going to put you in this location to play, because if it's a closer, like, prime example, Mississippi State with the Liberty Bowl, it's just a drive up the interstate for
right
them. That's something that state fans can gravitate towards. So if that's going to start happening, then you got to start looking at, well, if Iowa State's opting out, well, Iowa, let's put them in a bowl game closer to where it's closer to them. I think that's what you're going to start seeing with the bowl system. I wouldn't say it's going to become obsolete in some aspect, but definitely looking at it from a big glass view, this is the beginning of the NFL format.
Yeah, I think it's going to change. I think you might start seeing less Power 4 teams in bowl games, and it might start to be like, I think I heard Chase and Big Joe talking about it yesterday, where they were Chase was advocating for a Power 4 playoff and a Group of 5 playoff. I think it's going to be more of a Group of 5 thing to go to a bowl game, and these Power 4 teams, yeah, maybe some of these 6-6, 7-5 teams want to go play in a bowl game. But for these teams that go 8-4, 9-3, and they thought they were chasing a playoff spot and they don't get in, they may just be better off saying, no, we're good. And part of that, I think, is that the games that people wanted to play in are now being doubled as playoff games, right? Like, it was an honor to be selected for the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl and the New Year's 6 bowls. Those don't exist anymore in the way that they did because they're part of the playoff. I wouldn't hate if they bring those bowls back, and yeah, maybe you get 10 years down the road and those bowls start to mean less because of this, but at least give these teams an incentive to go to a bowl game by putting them in these historic games that have all this legendary history of, man, that team won the Orange Bowl that year. That's a great season for them. And you can start to rotate these neutral site college football playoff games. I would argue you do first round and quarterfinal games on campus sites in the college football playoff, because I think it'd be cool for these teams that get 1 through 4 seeds to get to host a college football playoff game. And then you rotate neutral sites for the semifinals and the national championship that aren't part of bowl games. You have, like, Nashville could end up being, hey, Nashville's going to host the college football semifinals every 3 years, and Atlanta will host one every 3 years. And, LA, the SoFi Stadium, all these stadiums, and you move those bowl games back to just being bowl games. The issue is, I don't think the bowl games and I don't think the TV would agree to that, because the ratings for all of those bowl games would go down.
Right. And I think you're onto something too about, host cities for those type of games, because look at Nashville right now. They're going to be hosting the FCS National Championship at Vanderbilt.
Right.
So that's something you got to keep your eyeballs on.
That's January 2nd.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to keep your eyeballs on that, because that's a monumental TV grab in a roundabout way. And that kind of would set the tempo for games going forward. But I don't know. I look at it in a different way, as in those, I wouldn't say meaningless bowl games, but I brought it up last Saturday with Connor, just having play-in games. Like I mentioned just now about this could be the beginning of an NFL type format.
Yeah.
Give me like wild card bowl games, and then go to the college football playoff and have your first round games be at those stadiums. Because in a roundabout way, yes, you could say it's kind of like NCAA basketball. Both teams are 11 seeds. Both teams are the same seed. Why have it at one college or the other?
Right.
Have it be a neutral site bowl game. And so if you're a team that opts out of a bowl game, you then choose that bowl game to play the I guess, play in a roundabout way. I don't know. It's a long soliloquy to follow, but that's where I'm at.
There's just so much going on in college football right now, and there's no stability.
Yeah.
It's changing every other year, and you're starting to get these pretty defining moments of Notre Dame opting out of a bowl game. Like, Notre Dame's fan base, that's important for these bowl cities. Notre Dame's fan base is going to travel.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to bring money to, they were offered the Pop-Tarts Bowl, I want to say, against BYU. That's in Orlando, I want to say.
So. Let's see.
Parker, do you know Pop-Tarts Bowl, Orlando?
Yes.
I mean, I guess Orlando doesn't really need football tourism because they've got the happiest place on earth. But, Notre Dame is going to go to Orlando. They're going to spend a lot of money on hotels. Are they going to bring, is whoever replaced them going to bring the same amount of fans and tourism as Notre Dame? Like, these big fan bases are important to these towns when they go to these bowl games. And by opting out, the incentive to have the bowl games changes.
See, this is what most people didn't realize when we expanded the playoff, that all anybody's ever going to talk about. You remember when we had the 4-team era, it was the who's in. You remember seeing that commercial plastered all over the place. And then when we expanded this thing, that's all anybody ever cares about. So therefore, these bowl games it's seeming like they're going to die out because all anybody cares about is the playoff.
Right.
But for Vanderbilt, I mean, we've had callers that are grateful that Vanderbilt's even playing in Florida on New Year's Eve. So it's a big deal, even if it's not the playoffs.
I think there are fan bases who are always going to care about their team's bowl game. And for Vanderbilt fans, 100% be thrilled with the ReliaQuest Bowl, because that is a bowl game that is hard to get into. It's on New Year's Eve. You had a 10-win season. That is a great accomplishment, even though there is disappointment from missing the playoff. But you're right, Parker, that even when it was 4 teams, 90% of college football fan bases had no illusions that their team was going to make the college football playoff. Now it's more like every Power 4 team, with the exception of maybe a few, feels like if everything goes right for us this year, we could win our conference and get into the college football playoff. And when you don't, a bowl game kind of feels like a consolation prize instead of a reward.
And it's a push and pull situation too if you don't make the playoff, because you're on the edge like a Notre Dame. Because look, if you say, oh, I want to opt out of the bowl game, it's almost like you're trying to read the room of the locker room, that is, because if you opt out, maybe that wins over the locker room saying, hey, I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
But if you end up playing in the bowl game, some of those guys like, you know what? I don't want to risk injury, and I kind of want to go somewhere else. And that's when you have that transferring out portion of the roster.
Yeah.
So if you're Marcus Freeman, it's a tough situation because, again, they're not in a conference. So when they're not in the college football playoff, that takes away some of their revenue, takes away some of their NIL money, takes away recruiting money, stuff like that. and then you opt out of the bowl game, that's more money off the table. So why would you do that? I mean, it could be a little greedy aspect if you look at it that way, but hey, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I'm sorry. Like that's the way you got to look at it for Notre Dame.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keegan is called in. Keegan, good morning. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Thank you for having me. Just to talk about the playoffs, what y'all got going on, I think it's a very ugly and awful precedent to be set for teams to opt out of bowl games when you're in the position of a Notre Dame at 10-2. I think Nick was just saying, there's a chance where if you do go play that bowl game, some guys will be like, I don't really want to get hurt. I'm thinking about leaving anyway. Let me just go ahead and leave. Well, in all honesty, I'd rather be in that situation than set the precedent of we're not going to go out here and fight. We're not going to go out here and play ball games. We don't love football, so we don't care about the bowl game. In a sense, a few years ago when Florida State was undefeated and got left out, the year their quarterback got hurt, their whole team went and played Georgia, and they got boat raced. I mean, it was ugly. Their whole team transferred out. They went on to play Georgia, and they got boat raced. In all honesty, if I'm a coach, I'd rather be in that position because that, to me, shows I'm here. I'm here to play football. I'm here to coach football. This is what I'm all about. In my mind, if you're looking to, hey, how can we get out of these things? That's just a really bad look on a coach and on a university going forward because, like in this case, Notre Dame, you want to opt out of bowl games. You want to put the pressure on the committee to put you into this playoff. I think that's wrong. Notre Dame should not be allowed to stronghand anybody with the threat of, we're not going to bowl games. We're not going to do this. You have to put us in or we're not going to play bowl games. The NCAA and the committee shouldn't allow a team like Notre Dame to do that. Now, some smaller 6-6 teams dropping out of bowl games, that happens. Who really cares about that? But on this big-time national stage, I think that is a really ugly precedent that would go up there with having a team go to the conference championship, and because they lose, let's not put them in no more. We think they suck. It's the same thing as that. Nobody's going to want to go to conference championships anymore. And if you allow Notre Dame to strong-arm the committee and the NCAA like this, sooner or later, nobody's going to want to go to bowl games because it truly will be playoffs or bust, as y'all are saying.
Right.
That's what I got, fellas.
Thanks for the call, Keegan. And that's where it's heading with Notre Dame of it feels like it's playoff or bust, and they didn't get in. They felt like they were wronged, and they're going to take their ball and they're going to go home. And it's fine. You're allowed to do that, but it does have ramifications long-term about where college football is heading. And Notre Dame, it's a very interesting time for Notre Dame, and they are not happy with the ACC right now, and we can talk about that on the other side. Notre Dame claims they love their independence, but when the ACC advocates for one of their full member schools, that is not going to happen for the Fighting Irish. We'll talk about it next. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones as well. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game. Join Chase and Big Joe today from noon to 3 at Dunkin', located at 926 Gallatin Avenue in Nashville. Stop by with a stuffed toy and donate to a child this holiday season. 1025 The Game has teamed up with Nashville Children's Alliance to give all these awesome stuffed toys donated by you. Just for stopping by, you'll be qualified for a 4-pack of tickets in the all-inclusive 501 Club at Bridgestone Arena to a Preds home game. I was actually in the 501 Club last week, and it is phenomenal. So make sure you head out there to Dunkin', 926 Gallatin Avenue in Nashville from noon to 3. A special thanks to the Metro Nashville Police Department, the Catalano Group, the Bluemont Group, Family Leisure, Thompson Machinery, Richmar Florist, Right Time HVAC, and Reladine. For more information and a list of Dunkin' locations that you can donate a stuffed toy, visit thegamenashville.com/toy. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game, talking about Notre Dame's decision to opt out of a bowl game after being left out of the college football playoff. And let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin from Hopkinsville has called in. Dustin, thanks for calling. What you got for us today?
Good morning, fellas. I just wanted to talk to all the Notre Dame fans, and they can tell the players themselves. I think that it's appropriate, since they're going to back out of a bowl game, that we should call them the Neuter Dame. Because obviously someone gave them the vasectomy because they're lacking below the belt doing that. Y'all like that one?
That was well done. That's well done.
Okay, so now back to the bowl game. Now we got that out of the way. I'm not a big fan of the bowl games. Like, you're not playing it. I guess if you're one of the teams in it and you're like Vanderbilt, yeah, it's your last game. Go out there and show the committee, hey, look at us, we curve stomp this team. But what you're talking about, I like 4 to 5 bowl games, 8 to 10 teams. Vandy's on the outside looking in and just comes through and wrecks these bowl games. And the number 1 and 2 seeds, or 3 and 4 too, in the playoffs, they get to sit on that bye. And the team that doesn't make it, like Vanderbilt this year, that actually might be a better team to be in, plays those number 1, 2, 3, 4 teams very first game and takes out what was supposed to be a juggernaut. Man, if there's one thing I know that sells, it's drama. I work with a bunch of guys that are drama queens, and you know what? I don't like promote it, but when you bring it to my face, I'll sweep the porch, I'll clean the welcome mat, and buddy, you're going to start playing a game you're not going to win, because there's one thing about drama I know. Just don't let the other guy get to you. But drama sells, and that's what people love. People get bored at work, they start causing drama. And if you put these bowl games to be more meaningful, a team like Vanderbilt has to play Georgia. They came through the bowl game, and then they played Georgia, number 1, who is on a bye, and knock them out, buddy. There's nothing better than that.
It's a good point, Dustin. And I think that playoff expansion is inevitable at this point, but it's just a matter of how big they go and how they decide to format it. Is 16 big enough, or do they go to like an FCS 24 where, the top 8 seeds get a bye and then you do play-in games for the next 16? College football has a lot of big decisions to make over the next few years.
Only the top 25 teams, past the 12. The 12 the ones in the power rankings, the top 12, they are the ones that make it in. And then you pick from the last 25. There's always going to be somebody that takes their ball and goes home. There's always going to be the Notre Dames. But that's all I had, guys. And go Notre Dame!
Thanks for the call, Dustin. Good stuff as always. And with Notre Dame, they have called out the ACC. And we only have a couple minutes on this, but I thought it was important to bring up that. So for those of you who don't know, Notre Dame, independent in football, but all of their other sports, they are a member of the ACC. Basketball, baseball, all of it. They are an ACC member institution. And the ACC, rightfully so, was advocating for their full member, Miami, to get into the playoff over Notre Dame. And the ACC has come out and said that they did not outwardly disparage Notre Dame, which I don't know if they did, but the funniest thing that they did, I don't know if you saw this, the ACC network for like the whole week leading up was just playing the Notre Dame Miami game from August on replay over and over and over. And it's a little bit like, I mean, it's not
excessive.
It's not outwardly disparaging Notre Dame, but I think I can understand the frustration from the Fighting Irish. I start to wonder if maybe they go look for another dance partner. They're not going to stop being independent, but I'd be hard pressed to find a conference that doesn't want Notre Dame to be associated with them, right? Like basketball games. Notre Dame, known for their football, but their fans for men's and women's basketball, they're going to show up too. And you get a little bit more TV money, I'm sure. I would bet the Big Ten would sign up to have Notre Dame jump on for, every other sport except for football. I don't know when their contract is up with the ACC, but it is interesting. Pete Bavacqua, the athletic director, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. He did say that he was furious with the ACC, and maybe that comes to a head at some point. But I just think it's funny. Notre Dame claims that they love being independent, and their independence is what makes them great. But when the league that they won't fully marry to, they're just kind of holding them at arm's distance. When that league decides to advocate for their actual member institutions, what are you doing? You can't do that. Well, it's like join the conference if you want to get the full support of the ACC.
Yeah, and I think everybody knows this, especially the ACC. They know how much money is on the table when it comes to Notre Dame and in college football.
Right.
But like if you're talking about another possible team or possible conference, I think the Big 12 is an option for Notre Dame.
That's fair.
Because I'd say a conference that needs a team like Notre Dame.
Yeah. I think
it would draw more eyes.
The Big Ten, I guess, not regionally.
Yes,
it makes the most sense, even though the Big Ten is not a regional conference anymore. But yeah, I could see the SEC being interested in it, to be fair. Like there's no rules anymore when it comes to who can join what conference. But I wonder if Notre Dame is looking for a way out.
I mean, look, if that is the case, I was reading up here real quick on some key points about Notre Dame. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll look more about this in the break, but it says there's like a binding agreement with the ACC through 2036.
Okay. So I guess, I mean, those have been gotten out of before, so I guess we'll see. But Notre Dame clearly not happy with the ACC. And we did mention it yesterday, but Notre Dame signed a memorandum of understanding with the college football playoff that if they are in the top 12 moving forward, they will be guaranteed a college football playoff spot. However, in a year where the committee just wants to leave them out, they could just put them at 13, right? Like if they're on the borderline and the committee knows that if they put them in the top 12, they have to get in, put them at 13, and that ends the problem.
Yeah. It says here before we go to break, grant of rights, a critical part of their deal is the GOR, meaning Notre Dame.
Right.
Ever decides
That's been why Clemson and Florida State haven't been able to get out.
Correct. So if they end up joining the ACC, it's through 2036.
615-737-1025. 3570 says Notre Dame is in the Big Ten in hockey. They are not in the ACC for every other sport. Okay. Almost every other sport. The ones that people pay attention to. Now, I mean, nothing against college hockey. Love college hockey. But college hockey conferences are strange, right? It's like college lacrosse conferences, too. Vandy women's lacrosse is in the American. They're not in the SEC because the SEC doesn't have lacrosse. So, sure, they're in the Big Ten for hockey. But they're in the ACC for almost every other sport. And clearly we're not happy.
Yeah, I believe ACC doesn't have a hockey, sanctioned league.
Right.
A buddy of mine went to Clemson and played club hockey for Clemson.
Yes. So, sure. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to chime in, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, there are two teams in the state playing bowl games. They did not decide to opt out. Vanderbilt in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Iowa, and Tennessee in the Music City Bowl against Illinois. We will discuss those games, an early read on those bowls, and could we see some opt-outs for either of those teams? We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Talking some college football bowl games. But before we get into that, some news on the MLB hot stove this morning. Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. So the Dodgers just continue to sign everybody.
Agreement. No set in stone number.
Agreed to terms.
Right.
I'll have to talk with TD about that on Thursday as Timmy Trumpet's going to have to relocate to L.A. And then the big news, Kyle Schwarber, lots of interest around the league. 5 years, $150 million, back to the Philadelphia Phillies.
That's ridiculous. 5 years, 150. I mean, you're now saying, all right, that's our DH for the future, and you're moving on from Castellanos is what it sounds like.
It is crazy with Schwarber how he turned his career around. Like, Schwarber was kind of getting the Gary Sanchez treatment of, yeah, he came into the league, he was a good power hitter, bad defensive catcher, see what he can do. And then the Cubs kind of just moved on from him. He has completely flipped his career on its head. I mean, he's hitting 50 home runs in a season. It's crazy.
Crazy when you lose, 20, 30 pounds and change your batting stance and actually work on some mechanics. Because, the Cubs had a wonderful year with him, that illustrious, World Series year. But, I mean, now he's with the Phillies and just tearing it up. Look, if Ohtani wasn't a player in the Major League Baseball realm, Schwarber would have won the NL MVP.
Right,
sure.
right. Yeah, the NL should just say, hey, Shohei, we'll give you an MVP trophy every year, but we're going to give another one away to whoever finishes second because it's kind of unfair right now. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Quick thoughts there on the MLB hot stove. I anxiously look at my phone every single day waiting to see a Tarek Skubal trade. So, we will see. I hope
wearing the Tigers gear today.
I know I do have the Tigers gear on today. Hopefully it's not today. We are going to talk about the bowl games in the state. And I want to apologize to Keegan. He says, I am incredibly hurt and upset of Jake's 2 teams in the state playing a bowl game comment. Don't make me call in every day about the Memphis Tigers again. I'll do it. I apologize. I meant we're going to talk about 2 teams in the state playing a bowl game. I apologize. We are not going to talk about the Memphis Tigers, but I will acknowledge the Memphis Tigers do play in a bowl game coming up. Don't know if I could tell you which one it is. I will mention on the Memphis Tigers front, they just hired Charles Huff as their head coach, who went from Marshall to Southern Miss last year, and now he is at Memphis. So there you go. There's your Memphis Tigers talk for the day.
Gasparilla Bowl.
Against?
NC State.
NC State. There we go. There we go. Vanderbilt in the ReliaQuest Bowl. That is an 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff on New Year's Eve down there in Tampa, and they are taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes. I think it's an interesting matchup for Vanderbilt because Iowa, known for their defense, of course. They are not a team that's going to put up a whole lot of points, but they are going to play good defense. Vanderbilt's offense has been one of the best in the country. It's a strength-on-strength type of game. I do think Diego Pavia is going to play. I don't know anything about that, and I don't think he's announced anything. I would guess we won't hear for a while, but I think he's going to play. Diego Pavia doesn't seem like an opt-out type of guy to me. The one that I wonder if he's going to play is Eli Stowers. And for Eli, probably not the first tight end off the board. Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon going to be the top tight end in the draft. But Stowers, I think, is going to be pretty comfortably a top 50 pick in the draft.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I'm making a guess. So that's the one that I would question is, does Eli Stowers play in the bowl game? But with Diego Pavia, I think he's going to be out there. And I think I would pick Vanderbilt, but I think it's going to be a tight one. I think those two strengths are going to kind of cancel each other out, and it might end up being like a 27-24 type of game for Vanderbilt. That'd be my guess.
I was thinking more of like a 14-10 type game. Iowa always tries to get things all murky when they play teams like that, and it could be one of those type of Army-Navy matchups where it's just back and forth in the run game. I could see that really happening.
Speaking of which, we get Army-Navy this weekend.
The most patriotic game on planet Earth, baby.
I love it. Saturday's going to be a fun day. We get Army-Navy and then the Heisman ceremony.
I think Boise State plays Washington as well.
Do they?
Yeah, it's a 7:00 game. Because I was, we talked, what was it, a week and a half ago or so about if Vandy was, I know normally it's an Army-Navy the only game of the day.
Well, right, because Boise State just played a They just played their conference championship game.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong game, but yeah, it is the only game. Maybe I was.
Okay, I was going to say, what happened to patriotism?
Oh, my bad. It's the following December, next Saturday, the following Saturday, the 13th.
Gotcha.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael in Madison says, I believe that I saw both Diego and Eli were playing. So there you go. If that's the case, that's great. And I feel better about Vanderbilt winning that game. It's an important one. Vanderbilt, first 10-win season in program history, go get an 11th win. And I know the disappointment is there. And Andrew Allegretta is going to join us tomorrow for his weekly visit with Corey Curtis and talk to us about Heisman, their Heisman hopes, and for Diego Pavia, and of course the bowl game selection, the disappointment of not making the college football playoff. But you can't let that disappointment take away from what this team has done. And I think this is an opportunity to put a nice little cherry on top of this season with a win against Iowa.
Absolutely. And I even sent you and Parker both a clip that was kind of surging on Twitter about Kirk Ferentz and just talking about the availability. We're talking about earlier about players opting out and so forth. At that clip that I watched, it doesn't seem like any of those players are going to opt out to Kirk Ferentz's standpoint. So again, and I think Clark Lee was on yesterday on SportsCenter talking to Matthew Berry saying, yeah, I don't see any of our guys opting out either. So this could be a heavyweight battle between both teams. And that's just something what college football fans want. They want the best football product out there. And you look at a guy from Diego Pavia's standpoint, if he doesn't win the Heisman, I think there's a lot of stuff to prove for Diego when it comes to NFL aspirations. Because look, if teams in the NFL discredit his work ethic and so forth of what he put together as a product for Vanderbilt, that's when you got something to prove. And I think that's what he'll probably do in the bowl game.
Right. And I really liked Clark Lee's comments of around here, we love playing football. Yeah. And they never had any thought about opting out of the bowl game. Just looking through the stats here, maybe I'm overrating Iowa's defense just purely based off of reputation. I don't know why I can't find them. I must have missed them. I'm looking for their scoring defense. They're 8th in the country. Okay, there we go. I completely 8th in the country. Iowa's allowing 14.7 points per game. We had Justin Greenbrier say, come on, Jake, if Vanderbilt doesn't drop a 50 burger on Iowa, I will be surprised. Iowa's a really good scoring defense. Yeah. Like Vanderbilt, if they put up 50, more power to them because that Kirk Ferentz defense is always going to be tough. I think 30 would be a good aspiration for this team against Iowa. If you can put up 30 against Iowa, that you feel pretty good. Do you know who has the best scoring defense in the country?
Best scoring defense. I'm going to play, what is it with you? So I'm going to go ACC team?
No, Big Ten.
Big Ten team.
Shouldn't be too hard.
I guess Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean,
they are allowing 8 points per game.
Holy cow. You're joking.
That is crazy. They are allowing 8.1 points per game.
I mean, again, you look at their schedule. It's
right. Yeah. I mean, they didn't have to play Oregon. They didn't play Indiana in the regular season. They didn't play, or they played Michigan, but
yeah.
106 points in 13 games.
Good for them. I mean, yeah, that's a program that always contends for a national title, and there you go. That just self-explains it right there.
Yeah, well, the second best defense in the country is Indiana at just under 11 points per game, along with Texas Tech right in that same range. So if you're looking for the best defenses in the college football playoff, they're right there. Miami also not too far behind. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Vanderbilt and Iowa on New Year's Eve in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Commodores looking for an 11th win to cap off the season. Tennessee will be right here in the Music City Bowl. We'll talk a little bit about that and wrap up the hour on the other side. More Titans talk coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Hope everybody's had a great start to their day. Wrapping up hour number 2. Back into the Titans in the third hour of the show. We'll also talk about Phillip Rivers possibly making a return to the NFL after 5 years away. But did want to mention Tennessee and Illinois in the Music City Bowl coming up. That is December 30th. So the day before the Vanderbilt and Iowa game. That is a 4:30 kickoff on ESPN. And for Tennessee, I mean, I know that Vols fans probably get tired of the Music City Bowl, but that's and it's perfect, right? Like there's so many Vols fans here, and they're gonna fill that stadium, and it puts a good product on the field, right? Like the Tennessee basically will get a home game. I'm sure Illinois fans will travel, but it makes sense for the team. It's not that much travel. It makes sense for the city. It makes sense for the event. Like it's kind of perfect and all around for Tennessee to be in the Music City Bowl.
And if you're a diehard SEC football guy, you think Bielema has a little bit of sourness to this,
There you
right?
go.
Former Arkansas guy,
Yeah.
Arkansas, Tennessee. Like, there's got to be some aspect of that, right?
Yeah, I heard Robbie and Joe talking yesterday about the last time he played an SEC team, he almost fought the head coach. So do we get Heupel versus Bielema?
I don't know. Who would you take in a battle of that?
I don't know. That's a good battle.
I might go Bielema.
I think I'd take Bielema.
And I would
You'd
say
be a fool not to take.
I think Bielema, like, you know, I think physically they're probably about the same, but like Bielema, I think just has that like no mercy kind of vibes to him.
Like, if you have him in a back alley and it's dark, yeah, I think Bielema might be the casting shadow you're afraid of. But
Right.
you never know. Josh Heupel, get him a Jolly Rancher or two. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
He eats those during games. I'm like, maybe gives him an extra sugar boost.
That's
I don't know.
Jolly Ranchers.
I think so, because his tongue is always just bright red afterwards. Either he's eating those little red hots is what they
Yeah,
are.
the
like cinnamon
yeah,
fire
yeah.
or whatever it is.
the hot tamales or
Yeah,
something. Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Tennessee to the Music City Bowl is always going to make sense. When that team has 8 wins or so, it's a match made in heaven, right? Like, and especially when the new stadium opens up, like that's going to be pretty cool for, you know, Vols fans in the area. They get to go out and experience their team in Nissan Stadium. I'm sure that they're going to do something similar to that game they played against UVA a couple years ago. Once the new stadium opens up, you know, Tennessee will play Wake Forest or something in Nissan Stadium. But they get to play in the Music City Bowl. Again, that is December the 30th. And excited for that. The Music City Bowl always a fun event. And, you know, Tennessee, they will pack that place out.
Yeah, it'll be orange, regardless of the
that is
shade
true.
of orange. It'll be orange,
regardless of how many fans show up. It will be orange. We were actually incorrect, or you were correct. We just didn't know it about the bowl games this weekend. We talked about this during the break.
Mm-hmm.
Boise State and Washington do play in the LA Bowl on Saturday, and thank you to the chatter in the YouTube chat who sent that in. It's during the Heisman ceremony, which is
it's after.
Oh, it's
the
after?
Heisman's at 6 and that game's at 7.
Okay, so it leads right into it?
Leads into it.
Okay, perfect. For some reason I thought the Heisman ceremony was at 8 or 8 Eastern, 7 Central.
Normally it's like that.
I guess maybe it is earlier because it's a Saturday.
And it kind of goes back to the conversation we were having about the, I guess, validity of bowl games and if they're just as important as they used to be. Because, again, the LA Bowl, wasn't it like the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl one year or something like that?
Yeah, it was the Gronk LA Bowl at one point. What is it this year? It is the Bucked Up LA Bowl.
Interesting. You look at that bowl game, and I think that's just one you're just trying to get butts in seats because SoFi Stadium, regardless of NFL, college, they're having a hard time filling seats there.
Yeah,
So
it was funny. Like watching the game last night, you couldn't really tell who the home team was just by listening because Eagles fans travel, they do, and Chargers fans, there aren't a ton of them, especially in Los Angeles. In San Diego, sure, there are plenty of Chargers fans, but
give credit to Hollywood. They know how to place, certain fan bases inside the TV screen.
Right.
So it makes it look like it's full.
It's true. And then they can zoom in on that one woman, the Chargers fan.
I thought she was a robot. Like when this first all took place as like a meme, I thought she was a robot. I mean, it's LA. I mean, what can you expect?
Now, the bowl season's always fun. And again, disappointed in the Notre Dame decision because I do think that could be the first step down a slippery slope of more teams starting to opt out. But you just get fun games. Like we were talking with Keegan earlier about Memphis and NC State. Like it's a fun game. And obviously the college football playoff is always going to be ultra important. But when you get close to New Year's, you do get some interesting games. BYU, Georgia Tech, and the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That should have been Notre Dame, I guess, instead of Georgia Tech. Virginia, Missouri. I mean, Virginia was one play away from going into the college football playoff. LSU and Houston. Somehow Houston is ranked.
Yeah, like 21st or something.
And they're getting a 5-star quarterback next year.
Good for them.
Just like Vanderbilt. Michigan and Texas in the Cheez-It Bowl. Like there are a lot of good matchups that I think we could start to lose if things trend in this direction. And especially with the Vols coming to Music City, like that's something that's important for Nashville. I know a lot of people come here for New Year's anyway, but it's like you got New Year's and you've got the Music City Bowl. It's a tourism thing. And I know there are a lot of locals out there that aren't a huge fan of this being a tourist city, but it brings money and these events aren't going away anytime soon for Nashville.
They're only growing.
Yes, they are. And Roger Goodell a couple weeks ago saying this is a Super Bowl city. So get ready. I would guess 2029. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
Have they already announced the Super Bowl years?
I thought it went to like 27 or 28. Something about Vegas was one of those.
Okay,
spots.
so it looks like through 2030 is actually confirmed.
Wow.
Unless that's incorrect. At least through 2028 is. 2028 is in Atlanta, 2027 in SoFi. So, yeah, I would guess maybe they wouldn't put it here in 2029 because Atlanta's getting it the year before.
Right.
But maybe 2030. Maybe 2030 would be a good one to look forward to. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Good discussion on college football. Lots going on in the college football world and lots of big decisions that have to be made over the next couple of years. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to chime in. Final hour of the show coming up. We're going to talk some Titans. The Titans heading into the offseason, we've talked a ton about they need a wide receiver. They need edge rushers. They need cornerbacks. But they have other resources. What secondary needs should the Titans be prioritizing? We'll get into that next. We'll also talk about Phillip Rivers possibly making a return. And we will give away some Preds tickets in the final hour as well. So stick around for that. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, final hour on your Tuesday morning, 102.5 The Game. Jay Kleiman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Going to talk some Titans, get into the Phillip Rivers saga in this final hour, and again, we will also give away some Preds tickets coming up in just a bit, so stay tuned for that. But the Titans, heading into the offseason, 4 more games until this season mercifully ends. And Mike Borgonzi has a big job this offseason. He had the offseason last year after taking the job, but now he's seen this full season and he can go to work on trying to retool this roster. And we've spent plenty of time on this show talking about wide receiver, edge, cornerback, because those are 3 premium positions that the Titans just do not have enough talent or depth at. You like what you've seen from Chimdike and Alec Manor, but they need more there. Cornerback, Marcus Harris has been pretty good for a 6th-round rookie, but you need more there. Edge, no matter what, you need more there. Even if Femi Oladejo comes back and looks good, you need more there. But it's pretty obvious the Titans are going to address those moves. They still have $130 million in cap space. And we're still talking about this team. If they do lose out, which is firmly on the table the way they've played this season, they're guaranteed to pick no lower than 2nd and could possibly trade out and gain more assets. So there are other needs on this team. And I kind of want to know, if you're Mike Borgonzi and you're heading into this offseason, knowing that you have to spend high value assets, whether that's free agent contracts or it's draft picks on wide receiver, edge, and cornerback, where are you using your other resources? There are a few positions that the Titans are thin at or could use an extra piece at. Where do you think the Titans should look outside of those 3 premium spots?
Titans fans, do not fall off the road or whatever, maybe what I'm about to say. That $130 million projected for their open cap for next year. If I'm Mike Borgonzi, you're looking at young talent coming off of a rookie deal, which is, I mean, it's hard to find some of those that are really valued at a top level.
Yeah.
But do your best to not overpay for a corner like that. Obviously, like I said, L'Jarius Sneed, one of those guys you kind of overpaid for, but yet that was a proven veteran at the time who had injuries. You got to go again. It's like picking through like hair with lice. You're picking through the comb a little bit because you get the criteria is players coming off rookie deals, productive rookie deals, like productive players coming off those rookie deals, non-injury prone players. So that narrows down your filter a little bit. If you can find somebody along those lines that you see potential in and not overpay for them and give them on like a 3-year prove it deal, I think that's what Borgonzi has to do going forward. And that's not just for one player, that's for multiple players.
Well, I'm looking at the Titans cap space and it's at $120 million right now.
Okay.
They're probably going to cut Calvin Ridley. That saves them an extra 13. They're probably going to cut L'Jarius Sneed. That saves them 12. They're probably going to cut Tony Pollard. That saves them 7. So just those 3.
That's near.
If they don't do anything else, you're saving another $30 million. So you would have $150 million in cap space. Basically, you can do whatever you want as long as Amy is willing to sign the checks. Free agency is not packed with loaded players and talent, but there are a couple of positions that I think the Titans could go find productive players at. And I think running back is one of them. I think that is where the Titans, eventually you probably should spend another draft pick on a running back, but Tajay Spears has been pretty good and he's under contract for next year. So I'd be fine getting rid of Tony Pollard and go sign a running back to another 3-year deal. Go make another Tony Pollard type move to secure that room, and you don't have to use a draft pick at running back this year. Because I think that's what free agency is going to be for the Titans. Fill these holes so that you can use your draft picks on players at those premium positions, at wide receiver, at edge, at cornerback, because that's where you need young, elite talent, is at those 3 spots. I'm okay signing a veteran running back or signing a veteran tight end to go along with Gunnar Helm if you let Chigakonkwo go. Or maybe signing a swing tackle who can challenge Dan Moore and J.C. Latham out there and at least have a little bit of depth. I don't think you need to go spend $80 million on a tackle like you did last year, but go get a guy who has a little bit of talent, and can at least push those guys and be a significant upgrade as a backup over Ollie Udo or Brandon Crenshaw Dixon if you get in a bind and one of those guys gets hurt.
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely fair. You mentioned the running backs, and, I'm a running back fiend when it comes to a conversation like this. Looking at some guys that will be free agents next year, and Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, Rico Dowdle, do you think the Titans might get into a conversation with a guy like Rico Dowdle? Because he's had a pretty good season, but I'm sure Carolina's going to do everything in their power to keep him.
Dowdle could be interesting. I think Breece Hall is the guy I would go after. I don't think it would cost you a ton. His market value is $10 million.
Okay.
Again, if you have $150 million in cap space, $10 million is kind of a drop in the bucket. Breece Hall is only 24 years old. Like, that's a
upside.
That's a lot of upside for a very talented guy who has proven that he can do it at the NFL level. Maybe has been a little disappointing lately, but that's a guy you could bring in, and if you pair him with Tajay Spears, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. He's only 24. I wouldn't hate signing him to a 4-year, $40 million contract.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it either. I mean, you look at the complexities of the running back room. What we see it now with Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, very similar backs, just one's older than the other. You look at Breece Hall, for example. He can do both,
right?
But he's a ground and pound running back that a lot of people kind of overlook a little bit. Obviously, the knee injury kind of, set him back a little bit. But when you look at a guy in Breece Hall with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, he was a productive running back.
Yeah.
So again, you got to look at it from that perspective.
I think it's just the question of, like, we keep bringing up, you have so much cap space. You have so much cap space. How do you use it? Because you're not going to find top of the roster players.
Right.
But I think I think this might be one of those free agent years where the Titans do a lot, but they don't do any big splash moves.
Correct.
Right? You got to fill the bottom of this roster up. You're going to use the draft to find those top of the roster guys who you hope become cornerstones of this franchise for the next 10 years. That's what you're using the second, third overall pick for, or the picks you get in a trade down. That's where you find your superstars that you hope develop into superstars.
Yeah.
But there's just not enough depth on this roster, on the offensive line, on the defensive line, linebacker, corner. I think you go sign 2 cornerbacks in this free agent cycle, and you still have to draft one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you go sign 2. I think it's going to be a flurry of moves from the Titans of deals ranging from like $7 to $12 million a year. I think that's going to be the Mike Borgonzi strategy. I don't want to say quality over quantity because I think they're going to look for the right fits, but I think they are going to try and bring in an influx of veteran talent to this roster to pair with the young guys you brought in last year's draft and all of the guys you're going to bring in this year's draft.
2 factors. One was mentioned earlier about drama. I think it was Dustin Hopkinsville that talked about it, drama in the workforce. I'm not trying to bring Brinker into this conversation, but Brinker said it multiple times now in press conferences and has stated it. Mike has the full jurisdiction over this roster. So if that's the case, make sure Chad stays out of the roster construction of this team, because let Borgonzi bake, as people like to say. Borgonzi, and you make a great point, Jake, that if Borgonzi is trying to take quality over quantity, that's the right way to do it. And 2, you want to make sure if you're the Titans, don't force it. Don't force a contract that you don't want to have on your books, because that's kind of where you want to go if you're the Titans. Like you said, build through the draft. And if you see a piece or 2 in free agency, go for it. Don't overpay for it. Go for it. And then just keep using that financial capital for the future.
I think you've got to think opposite of what Rand Carthon did in 2024. Yes, 2024. When you brought in Calvin Ridley on a nearly $100 million deal, you traded for L'Jarius Sneed. You made big franchise-changing moves that cost you draft capital and tied yourselves to these guys for multiple years. I think it's going to be a lot of short-term, medium value deals this year.
Prove it deals.
Right. See if you can get a couple of guys who can come in and elevate the floor of this roster, right? Because if you can bring in a lot of guys who are better than, you've got some, Jalen Harrell had a sack on Sunday, so don't want to pick on Jalen Harrell, but go bring a veteran edge rusher in who can be at least like a league average player who you can put in there as your third edge rusher, and he can make a couple of plays for you and get 7 sacks on the year. They kind of did that with Draymond Jones, and it didn't work out. That the team wasn't very good, and they traded him. But I think those are the type of deals that they're going to look for. That you can't go sign big name free agents. Not that I think there are going to be a ton out there, but like an example, Trey Hendrickson is going to be on the market at 31 years old. SpotTrack has his market value at $22 million a year. You should stay about as far away from that as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
That does not fit your timeline. But maybe a Leonard Floyd, or maybe bring back Danico Autry on a 1-year deal. Like these mid-range guys who could just kind of be placeholders while you continue to build the young core of this team. Mm-hmm. But it raises the floor so you don't go 2-15 again next year, right? Like that you have to show progress, and I think that's why they're going to be active in free agency. They have to raise the floor of this team. You've got to get this team back to a minimum of 6 or 7 wins next year. And you can't do all of that by just getting rookies, because the rookies you hope develop into being stars, but a young team is going to have a very low floor. If you can bring in a good amount of veterans, bring in a high volume of guys who can at least help this team take a step forward, who knows if they're going to be part of the long-term future of this team. I think that's going to be important. And I think the positions running back, linebacker, tight end, offensive line, I think those are the positions you start to look at and say, we could use some veteran pieces there.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you mentioned edge rusher here. Looking at a guy in your Terry Gross-Matos who came out of Penn State, who now plays for the 49ers, which you might see a little bit of this Sunday, but that's a guy coming off a rookie deal.
Yeah.
You know, like to me, that's just the mindset where I'm at right now. If I'm a Mike Borgonzi GM aspect, I'm looking for those guys coming off rookie deals.
Yeah.
So I can get on a cheaper deal.
You got like AJ Epinesa with Buffalo, Kwity Paye coming out of the Colts. Like, I think those could be some names that they maybe look at too. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mentioned we give some Preds tickets away. Let's do it now. Beat caller number 3 at 615-737-1025, and you can win a pair of tickets to see the Predators play the Colorado Avalanche tonight at Bridgestone Arena. That is an 8:30 p.m. puck drop. Again, caller number 3, 615-737-1025, and you can win a pair of tickets to see the Predators and the Avalanche tonight, 8:30 p.m. puck drop at Bridgestone Arena. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Little Nickelback bringing us back. Nickelback gets too much hate. Too much hate.
They're all over my iPod.
I'm not saying they're the best band ever, but they get too much hate. Some of their songs are pretty good. Anyway, talking Titans here in the final hour of the show. We also are going to talk about Phillip Rivers possibly making a comeback coming up in the next segment. But let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our friend Keegan has called back in. Keegan, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Y'all were talking about player acquisition for this offseason, and I think y'all made a point yesterday, and y'all talked about it before throughout the season, but yesterday y'all were making a point about Cam Ward's deep ball. That's not the most accurate thing in the world, and I agree there are definitely deep throws that he should have hit this season that he did not. But one way I look at it is go back to Josh Allen's rookie year. You didn't see him hitting any deep balls. There's all kinds of talk and concerns around Buffalo about him being able to throw it deep. And then the Bills went out and they acquired Stephon Diggs. Once they acquired Stephon Diggs, I don't think we've ever heard about Josh Allen's deep accuracy ever again. I mean, it changed the course of his entire career. So to go along with the player acquisition, I don't think there's necessarily like, what's his name, Jalen Tyson from Arizona State. I don't think you necessarily go out here, draft him, and he becomes your Stephon Diggs. But there is a move that needs to be made in the wide receiver room, whether through free agency, trading for somebody, drafting somebody. You have to be able to go out there and get a real wide receiver one for Cam, just to help his development even more than it already has been. I mean, I know we got DK and Isle Manor. DK is a deep threat because he's so fast. Isle Manor, he's been up and down all season. But going forward, the team doesn't have a wide receiver one. You have to have a wide receiver one in the future for Cam to hit his full ceiling. If you don't get him that, I mean, he might just top out at average, and that's the best we ever get from him. But I truly believe he needs a wide receiver one that can go out there any part of the field and make plays that the guys we have now and in the past just can't. And yeah, that's all I got, fellas.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Keegan. It's a good point, and I think that's why wide receiver is going to be prioritized in the draft. Yeah, Arvell Reese at the top of the draft would be great, and I think if the Titans don't trade out, I think Reese or Bain or the best edge rusher is probably going to be the pick because it's tough to get elite pass rushers, and you've got a couple up there at the top of the draft. But if you trade back and Carnell Tate, I think, is my favorite scenario. And again, we're so far away from the draft. We don't know where the Titans are picking. We don't know who's going to be a trade partner, but like just surface level before we dive completely into it, I think that is my favorite idea is trade back and take Carnell Tate.
Let's play Fantasyland for a second.
Right.
I'm in for that. I think they should trade back, acquire Carnell Tate, and kind of piggyback what the Bengals did with getting a guy in Joe Burrow. Obviously, this is the same draft, like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and you got a T. Higgins. They could also have that three-headed monster as well. Cam Ward, Carnell Tate, and just wait for 2027.
Well,
Give me Jeremiah Smith. I know.
Just reunite them.
I know it's just a Fantasyland idea, but God, wouldn't that be great?
Well, and I think every Titans fan out there, part of the reason trading back is so enticing is because you could get a 2027 first-round pick, and that opens the door to get Jeremiah Smith. And I think everybody is a little bit hoping for that.
Who's been saying it all along, Jake?
You have.
Right here.
I mean, I love Jeremiah Smith. I would love to see him in a Titans uniform, especially he'd be coming in for the new stadium.
Make it happen, Amy.
I did want to look, though, because Keegan brought up the point of the Bills went out and got Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen when they needed a number one wide receiver. And I'm hesitant to trade picks for a wide receiver because the Titans just need so much right now that going out and trading a first and a second or a first and a third for an elite wide receiver seems like counterintuitive to what the Titans need to do. When you have so many holes and such a lack of star power, you need to go find those guys through the draft. But there also is, bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. What if Justin Jefferson became available?
Ooh, man, that is a good point there, Jake.
Just full on hypothetical here, but things aren't going very well in Minnesota. He's not having a great statistical season. J.J. McCarthy, although he had a pretty good game against the Commanders on Sunday, hasn't been exactly what they thought. I mean, just putting it out there, is that something the Titans would say, all right, our picks are worth getting that guy for our young quarterback? I don't think they would do it. I don't think Justin Jefferson would be interested in coming here. Yeah. But just, Keegan brings up Stephon Diggs, same team, elite wide receiver. Maybe that's a development that would happen in the offseason with some team.
Yeah, I just look at Justin Jefferson, who's a generational wide receiver in a different tax bracket when it comes to teams like the Titans and also Stephon Diggs. Because to me, like Stephon Diggs reminds me so much of Michael Thomas, because Michael Thomas got such a bad rap with the New Orleans Saints. They called him like
slant
boy. Exactly. He always runs slants. As for Stephon Diggs, he was always a 5-yard, 10-yard out. Sometimes he hits a ball over the top, but that's besides the point. You look at a team and just like the Titans with Justin Jefferson, I don't think the Titans, obviously financially they could, but you look at it from a draft standpoint, they just can't. They can't sacrifice those picks.
I agree. And I'm looking through like the highest paid wide receivers, because that would be who would get traded, of like somebody getting tired of their situation and, the team wants to get the money off their books. There's not really anybody who makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, Tyreek Hill is slated to have a $51 million cap hit, and I don't think he's going to be there next year. But no, I think the Titans have to prioritize wide receiver this year, whether that's at the beginning of the draft, whether that's second round, whether that's third round. This is why I really would love to trade back and get 2 first-round picks this year, because you could get the edge rusher and the wide receiver in 1 year, and you can get that number 1 target in the building for Cam Ward while not sacrificing the ability to take a high-level pass rusher. So maybe the best scenario would be you trade back to the Jets, you get both their picks. You could take Ruben Bain at 7, and you take Mekhi Lemon at 23 or something like that.
I'd be okay with that.
Like, that's fine with me too. Anyway, we're getting too deep into draft talk for early December.
Mekhi Lemon, I'll take him any day of the week.
Yeah.
Good wide receiver.
Or, I mean, there are other guys.
It's my draft crush already. Mekhi Lemon.
I know.
Let's get the slogans going. Let's get the T-shirts printed. Do whatever we have to do.
TD loves Jeremy Bernard from Alabama, too, who might be a second-round kind of guy as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go back to our phone lines. Dustin from Hopkinsville has called in again. Good morning, Dustin. What you got?
Good morning again. Yeah, we're talking about Borgonzi and Cam Ward and these Titans. We're finding out, with every defensive trade that they make, that, man, like Denard Wilson has got this defense pretty good, and our corners, yeah, they're young and they could do better. But man, I've seen some plays where they were just in the receiver's face and everything they could do Sunday, and the receiver just brought it in. There's nothing you can do about it. When a receiver can do that, I mean, the judge, or what's his name, Judy. That's just. I mean, Fannin had a good game too. But looking at this offseason, I have faith with not seeing anything they've done yet because of what I've seen from Borgonzi this year. Every one of his picks, minus Femi, has looked pretty good, and he's injured. But I have faith that there's no reason. There's going to be no doubt whether Cam Ward's the guy or not halfway through the season next year because of what Borgonzi is going to do, in my opinion, because he's obviously got a knack for finding guys in the 4th and 5th round. I would like to see them go after a guy and get a Devin Achane, Chase Brown type. And I think Rico Dowdle could fit that mold. I'd really like to see him be here. Another receiver and a running back for Cam Ward, who and half his games, you never know if he's going to have 70 receiving yards or 70 rushing yards or both. I mean, Devin Achane had that at halftime on my bet last week. He had over 100 yards receiving and running it. I'd like to see that, but I really think it's going to be easy to tell if Cam Ward's the guy, because if you watch Cam Ward and his accuracy, the issue for me is I don't care who you go get at wide receiver. If you're throwing 6 inches to a foot behind or in front of your receiver, there's nothing a good receiver is going to do for you if your accuracy isn't good enough to touch his hand.
That's fair. It's fair, and I think you're right. Mike Borgonzi is going to do whatever he can to make sure they know what they have in Cam Ward at the end of next year. We kind of talked about that with Will Levis heading into last year of, hey, they're going to give him Calvin Ridley. to bring in Tony Pollard. They want to know what they've got in this young guy, and they figured it out. I think next year is that kind of year for Cam Ward. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, the big story of last night, and we're looking at it right now on Good Morning Football. Speaking of which, Angry Runs champion Cam Ward for Good Morning Football today after shrugging off Grant Delpit on the throwaway there. Maybe the first incomplete pass to win the scepter in Angry Runs history.
Put it on the board.
Titans get another scepter. I mean, Derrick Henry had plenty while he was here in Nashville. But yeah, there's one for Cam Ward. We're looking at it up on Good Morning Football. Phillip Rivers possibly coming back to the NFL. We'll talk about it next, along with the Colts' playoff chances now that Daniel Jones is out for the season. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, final half hour. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Couple more segments. Chasing Big Joe coming up at the top of the hour. We couldn't go through the entire show without talking about the big news from last night. It was reported just before Monday Night Football started that Phillip Rivers, former Chargers and Colts quarterback, would be working out for the Indianapolis Colts. And at first it was reported that that was going to happen today. Jeremy Fowler reported that, in fact, Phillip Rivers worked out for the Colts last night. And just over an hour and a half ago, Pat McAfee tweeted this out. Some Indianapolis QB news from my sources. Daniel Jones will be getting surgery on his Achilles this afternoon in New York. And all indications are pointing towards future Hall of Famer and current 44-year-old grandfather, Phillip Rivers, to be announced as the Colts quarterback at some point today.
I can only laugh about that because I was talking about this in the break and earlier in the show. The NFL is lacking quarterbacks, like good quarterbacks, that is, because this is a league that was founded on pocket passing, 3, 4, 5-step drops, and you get the ball out of your hands.
Yeah.
Now we've evolved into this, let's play a little backyard football. Lamar Jackson, and in all seriousness to the Russell Wilsons of the world, he's the one that transcended the sport when it comes to pocket passing / running the ball, in my opinion.
Right.
When he came from NC State. So like that's how I look at it. But yeah, the league is depleted of really good quarterbacks.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You look around the league, like you even mentioned, we both mentioned in the break, you have all these practice squad quarterbacks and you resort to a 44-year-old retired Phillip Rivers.
I might as well call my good friend Kelly Holcomb up and see if he can get a workout as well.
See if he can get that.
Maybe he'll be interested.
Start getting that arm loose. I mean, I was just thinking about it in like a baseball sense of like first baseman for the Spencer Torkelson goes down for the Tigers. Instead of calling up a first baseman from AAA who's been playing all year, Miguel Cabrera, you still good to come out here and play a little bit? Like it's crazy. It's crazy that Phillip Rivers is going to come back after 5 years. And that seems to be where it's headed, that he's going to be back. I mean, I get it for the Colts that Riley Leonard's hurt. Anthony Richardson is hurt. Do you want Brett Rippon to start for you? I don't think so. But is Phillip Rivers, who has not played an NFL snap in 5 seasons, is that the answer?
Right now for the Colts, I think it is the answer because Carly Ursay-Gordon is so invested in Sauce Gardner, and luckily he didn't get seriously injured when they played, what was it, the Jaguars is what it was? No, the Texans, excuse me. Like, she's so enamored with that, they've gone all in for that. I think she's more scared as an owner / roster construction, and also Shane Steichen. We don't want to risk our season with a practice squad quarterback. Go with the guy that you're familiar with, 1, and 2, that knows football like the backside of his hand.
Well, they started 8-2, and they are now 8-5.
I believe so. 8-5, 8-4.
So it's falling apart quickly. And I guess this is like the break glass in case of emergency, Phillip Rivers. And in fact, Phillip Rivers, I was reminded of this last night, that he was going to be the quarterback for the 49ers in the Super Bowl a couple years ago if they had beaten the Eagles. In that game where Brock Purdy tore his UCL and then Josh Johnson got hurt, they were going to call up Phillip Rivers to come play in the Super Bowl if they had won that game. Obviously, they didn't. It didn't end up mattering. But it's insane that they are bringing Phillip Rivers in. And being here in Nashville, everybody is bringing up, why not call Ryan Tannehill? Dustin from Hopkinsville says you're not going to throw everything at 37-year-old Tannehill over 44-year-old baby factory Phillip Rivers. Do want to make the point here. Phillip Rivers has had a full defense in his household. So maybe he is playing against, a full 11 on the other side because he has, 13 children?
Yeah, 12, 13, something like that. Definitely a dozen, like the donuts. And look, he lives in Fairhope, Alabama, and I remember watching a video with Gruden. I think he went down to his house or something. He has a full 100-yard football field in his backyard, like a turf football field. This guy is a coach at a Catholic school for a high school that is, I think like St. Michael or St. Joseph or something. Yeah. He is around football 24/7.
Right. But is he throwing? And is he consistently like getting the mental reps too? I just don't see, he can't play this weekend, right? Like you got to put Rippon in there and you think he's going to play Sunday?
I absolutely do.
They play what, the Seahawks on Sunday?
Absolutely. I think, look, this would be the greatest story on planet Earth because they're coming off of the one of my buddies, Nick, he calls it the manifestation game because the Jags have always seemed to beat the Colts in Jacksonville.
Yeah,
and
they can't win that game.
Right. So I think coming off of that, playing Seattle, this is a game where Philip Rivers says, hey, I'm the next Joe Flacco right now. I really do. And look, you have one of the best running back in the NFL right now in Jonathan Taylor. You're not going to give it to him 50 to 20 times a game. I get that. But look, if his arm is like a noodle like Peyton Manning when he was in Denver, I'm okay with that because it gets you some form of progression in the offense. He knows how to dissect a defense. And look, maybe that's exactly what they need. They just need a smarter quarterback at the helm.
This might qualify as elder abuse, putting him back there 5 days after signing, hasn't played in 5 years against the Seahawks defense. I mean, I guess for the Colts, what do you have to lose? Right? Your playoff hopes are hanging on by a string. You're not going to get in if you put Brett Rippon in. So I guess why not call up Philip Rivers and see if he wants to do it, but still feels crazy to me. Sean and Franklin on text sent a long text with thoughts on the Titans and Notre Dame, but he says, Philip Rivers coming back. Who's next? John Elway? This league needs to start offering open tryouts again if they're this desperate for quarterbacks. And you make the point of Daniel Jones out for the season, and they traded those picks away for Sauce Gardner. I mentioned it yesterday. What do the Colts do at quarterback next year?
That is a great question.
You don't have a first-round pick, so you're not going to be able to get a quarterback who can come in and start as a rookie.
Unless, you know what I'm thinking?
Will Levis?
No, not Will Levis. The Titans, they find a partner. This could be the partner.
What would they trade? They've already given up both their first-round picks.
Yeah, but, I mean, you could get actual roster eligible players right now. I mean,
give us Jonathan Taylor and Quentin Nelson, and you can have the first overall pick.
I mean, there's definitely something to be had there. I'm not saying those two players, but
we're right. Well, running back and guard aren't exactly premium positions, but no, they just don't have. They don't have the ammo to trade up because they made that trade for Sauce Gardner. So I think that their only options are going to be trading for a quarterback that no one wants anymore. Levis would be an option. I don't know if the Titans would want to trade him in the division because if he does pan out, then whew. And I don't think he's going to pan out, but if he does, I think Kyler Murray, your guy. I think Kyler Murray could be the Colts quarterback next year.
Hey, as long as there's not a Call of Duty game out there, this team could go 9-0. I really could. Then they fall off.
But they did go 9-0 in 2020, right? The Hail Murray was part of that.
Yeah. It's my guy.
615-737-1025. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Edward has called in. Edward, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Listen, it's obvious you guys do your homework. I enjoy your show immensely. I was concerned when they switched from Joe and Chase. I called in there quite a bit, but you guys do your homework. You do a good job.
Thank you.
That being said, I'm old school. I call in. I'm 63. You get some great texts. I challenge these callers to call in. Let's get to know them. Paul Feinbaum has a show at night, and there's a whole log of callers that call in. It's a lot of fun to listen to. So that's one. Quarterbacks. Philip Rivers would take him in a heartbeat. You have a late afternoon show where asset management. That's what they want. One of the radio hosts said, I am convinced now, Justin Simmons had had a great game, and I'm convinced now it's time to trade him as an asset manager. I mean, I'm interested in winning now. The fans are interested in winning now. When Will Levis was having his issues, I called in and said, hey, let's call Drew Brees. Winning now is the cure-all for everything. Okay? So, yes, I think it's a great idea. If you get 1 or 2 years, I'm on proving commodities, okay? And I'm a big believer in Cam Ward, too. Don't get me wrong about this. Let's give him a chance. But that process of bringing in Philip Rivers, he can study and understand how NFL defenses work and to put the ball where he needs to, yes. I mean, you're right, he is a Hall of Famer. Just a matter of time. But Give me your thoughts. I mean, there are some other quarterbacks out there. I was hoping we'd get Aaron Rodgers. I just, these are proven commodities, guys. Anyway, enjoy your show. Keep up the good work.
Thanks for the call, Edward. And I agree. Like, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to bring in Phillip Rivers, but I also just wonder if a guy who hasn't played in 5 years is going to be able to strap him up and give you any kind of quality play.
One hit and he could be an absolute just piece of glass and shatter into a million pieces.
Right. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We got one more segment with you on this Tuesday. We'll get to some of your texts. We'll wrap up the show coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, wrapping up the show on this Tuesday. Been a fun one, talking college football, talking Titans, and of course, the story of the day around the sports world, Philip Rivers possibly returning to the NFL. After 5 seasons away, he might be back, which is just absolutely insane. But here we are, and
whoops,
it happens once a show. It's all good. And we've got some good text on the text line about it. 3337 says, wonder if Terry Bradshaw could still give you a game or two. I mean, if you've watched him on the Fox NFL Countdown, I would say absolutely not. But yeah, I get it. I said in the last time, I get it from the Colts perspective of you're still on the borderline of being in the playoff hunt. What harm does it do to see if he wanted to come in? And if Philip Rivers says yes, and he's willing to take the beating that he might get, then more power to you. Go ahead. I just can't see it working out.
Look, if he plays Sunday, he will now fall in the category of the top 5 oldest quarterbacks to play all time in the NFL. Top is just had the list up as I blank. Here we go. I just had it. Vinny Testaverde is number 3 on that list. George Blanda, is at 48. So then you have Tom Brady, Vinny Testaverde, Steve DeBerg, and then Warren Moon at 5, but he was at 43. 44-year-old Philip Rivers falls in that 3 to 4 to 5 category.
Right.
So
did he just turn 44 today or yesterday?
December 8th.
So yesterday was his birthday, and he was like, you know what? For my birthday, I want to come back and play NFL football. And so Philip Rivers apparently is going to call back. Richie from White House says, shoot, if Rivers comes back for the Colts, the Titans should call D-Mace to help out in the receiver room.
Not a bad option.
We'll have to
look.
They're coming in today. You should ask him. Be like, hey, have the Titans called you up?
Talk about physical shape. That man, Derek Mason
could still do it.
I don't know what the hamstring situation is right now. D-Mace, when you get in here, we'll talk about it. But I mean, if the hamstrings are good, put them back, lace them up one more time. Lace them up.
Like if I haven't seen D-Mace a lot lately because of the difference between our shows. Usually I'm not around anymore when they come in. But if you haven't seen Derek Mason in a while, that dude, he looks like he could still play.
I know for a fact he could probably still play. I don't care what anybody says.
I think he could give you a couple of routes out there. But I think it's got to be tough the older you get, to put together a full game. But I wouldn't doubt that Derek Mason could go out there and give you, every other series, give you some third down reps.
If I'm D-Mace, which obviously I'm not a former perennial NFL athlete, but I feel like the separation off the line of scrimmage, if you're Derek Mason right now, is still top notch. Because to me, if watching Derek Mason walk into the office every day, I really do think this guy could get some separation off the line.
There we go. Titans, you probably still have his number.
Yeah.
Make a call. 2104 asks, would he be the first grandfather to play in the NFL?
That's a great question.
I mean, I would guess no, right? People had kids younger and younger back in the day. So in the NFL, if you're going all the way back, even to just the beginning of the Super Bowl era, I would think
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre was a grandfather.
In 2010, his final season.
He had his first grandchild.
And Philip Rivers would be number 2 if he plays.
I can't believe this is just readily available information.
Just looking at it, says Brett Favre was a grandfather during his last season with the Minnesota Vikings in 2010, making history as the contemporary grandfather playing in the NFL. And Philip Rivers is, obviously worked out with the Colts. If he returns to play Sunday, he will be number 2 on that list.
Wow. So. We got a lot of thoughts on D-Mace coming back. Wes in Clarksville says, don't think D-Mace would want McCoy as his coach. Dustin from Hopkinsville says he could go toe-to-toe with Xavier Restrepo.
He's better than Restrepo. Don't say that.
My favorite one, and we'll end the show with this one. Joey from Gallatin. Imagine seeing D-Mace and Chim Dike back in kick return.
That's a double-headed monster you don't want to mess with.
Love it. Great stuff today from everybody. Appreciate you all texting and calling. We'll be back tomorrow. Corey Curtis is with us for the full show, as he always does on Wednesday. And Andrew Allegretta is going to join us at 10:30. We'll talk Diego Pavia's Heisman case, Vanderbilt's bowl placement, and much more. Nick Frazier, always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
We'll do it again next week. I'm Jake Lyman signing off. Don't forget, Chase and Big Joe are out at the Dunkin' at 926 Gallatin Avenue. They're coming up next. You can drop off a stuffed toy if you go out and see them live. Chase and Big Joe up next here on 102.5 The Game.